Okay, this is Ron Watson, and I'm here with Aquarian Awakening, another blog message here for you all. This one is going to be on the significance of tonight and tomorrow, which is Christmas. This is Christmas Eve, and it's a very symbolically a very powerful time astrologically. And to the Christians, it's a day of commemorating the birth of Christ. But what I want to share with you is the mysteries behind this particular day of celebration, and to show you what maybe the church would rather you don't know, and that's the significance of astrology to this particular event and what it really is signifying in the more metaphysical and astrological sense. So we're going to be talking in regard to that, and I'm going to be sharing with you some of the meanings, the deeper symbolic meanings of Christmas. And I'll start out by telling you that Santa Claus, or Old Nick as he's called, St. Nicholas is actually what he's called, refers to Father Time, which is Saturn or Satan, if you would. And Father Time was the devourer of all of his children. He never got Zeus, if you know the mythological story. But more importantly, Father Time was had a scythe, and he was the reaper, if you would, the reaper, and that's what Santa Claus depicted in the old days. Santa Claus in Europe was not a fat, roly-poly guy like he is in the United States. He was a thin, emaciated-looking guy with a long beard, and St. Nicholas was his name, and he was the giver of good gifts to the children that were good, and the withholding of good by giving them coal in their stockings if they were naughty. And interestingly enough, coal and rocks and minerals and crystals is all under the domain of Saturn. Saturn rules rocks, crystals, and minerals. It's the hardening of all things, the crystallizing force in nature. So Saturn rules your teeth and your bones, for example, in astrology. But amazingly, he came to the United States and he became very fat and very roly-poly, and we have a jolly St. Nicholas, and not one like Europe experienced and depicted for many, many years before he ever came here. If you take the word Santa, S-A-N-T-A, and move the letters around just a little bit and change their position, you'll end up with Satan. And that's kind of the hidden way that they've kind of made this character, Santa Claus, and hidden it from the uninitiated, so that they wouldn't realize what this true meaning of Santa is. Santa Claus was a depiction of Saturn. He was the stern father figure who was a disciplined person who demanded that of his of the people, and if they didn't abide by that discipline and were naughty, of course he withheld good from them. But the most important thing about understanding this time of year and Santa Claus and what it's all about is to know that I know the Christians would, if you say Satan, of course it's it's a taboo word. He's the terrible boogeyman, if you would, that hides under the bed. But Satan is actually a depiction of Saturn, and Saturn was Father Time. That's who he was, and he was the devourer of all his children. If you look at the mythological story of Saturn, he devoured all of his children, but he never got Zeus. And Zeus was the archetype for Jesus, Jesus. And of course, he never got Zeus. He was hidden in a cave, and he grew to manhood, and he overthrew the wicked kingdom. And that story is told by Christ as well. Herod issued an edict to destroy all the children because he couldn't find them. This child that was supposed to be a king that was going to be born, and so he issues an edict, destroy all the children, but one's preserved alive. And of course, Christ comes to do his work and to achieve his kingdom on earth that he was predicting. So the kingdom of heaven within. But the important thing to know about this whole story is that the birth of Christ is told every year in the heavens when the sun descends into on December 21st, it descends to its lowest point in southern declination, and it stays there for 3 days and 3 nights before it ascends again and begins the journey of the sun as it goes and journeys back north again to warm and bring warmth and life back to the earth. Now that story is told every year on December 25th, midnight. The sun begins its journey back again after it stayed in hell, Capricorn sign, by the way, and it stays there for 3 days and 3 nights before it rises again. This birth and the resurrection, if you would, all occur on the 25th. The interesting thing, too, is that when the sun descends into Capricorn and stays there, it's actually in the sign of the goat. And the sun just left the sign of Sagittarius, which is the sign of the horse. Sagittarius, okay, half horse and half man. It's my sign, and when it's not half ass and half man. But anyway, so he's born in a stable. That's what that's depicting, a place of goats and horses. And the 3 wise men weren't looking for a great big star in the sky. They were looking for a star that was in the chart of a child. And that was a 5-pointed star that configured itself by the aspects of the planets to one another, which is the way we interpret charts today. We have aspects, trines, sextiles, quintiles, squares, oppositions that tell us a story as you look at an astrological chart. So they were looking for a child that would be born at a particular time and place, astrologically, and they knew that the longitude and latitude where that child should appear. So they traveled, as they were astrologers, to that place, to that manger, and found the child at that time. That story, of course, is something that's interesting because Herod couldn't see that star, and he kept looking for it, and he couldn't find it, and he wanted to know where this child that was supposed to be raised and become a king, is the way he understood it. He wanted to stop it, so he issues an edict, destroy all the children under 2 years old. And of course, they slaughtered the children. But every age, every 2,140 years, there's a new age, and with each age, there's a slaughtering of children. If you go back to Moses, when he was born, it was the same thing. He's preserved alive. He's hidden in a reed basket, and he is saved by the house of the king. And of course, he grows up to manhood and overthrows the king of the day. And that story is told actually every 2,140 years. We have a new age of this influence. Today we have the same thing. The courts have issued edicts that actually, quite truthfully, it's abortion, which is killing children by the millions every year. And that same process is going on in this time as we're moving out of the Piscean age and moving into the Aquarian age. Just as we moved out of the Aryan age, the sacrificial lamb of Aries, when Christ came, and moved into the Piscean era, which is the age of the fish, and the sacrificing of lambs was to end with Christ. But let's leave that story alone and come back to Saint Nicholas and this story of Christ and his birth, and that's what we commemorate right now. Every year this happens with the sun's descent into Capricorn, and its descent into the southern hemisphere where it stays 3 days and 3 nights before it rises again. And then we have the birth of the sun and the celebration of that. In the old days it was called Saturnalia. Today we celebrate the birth of Christ at this time, which is coinciding with the sun's rebirth each year. So basically that's the story of Christmas, and there's a lot more to it. The angels in white that appeared in the tomb, that story goes back to snow and many other symbols and messages within it. But again, if you're interested in all this, I hope you read my book. It's called The Greatest Story Never Told, and that book is available through Amazon and Kindle, and it gives you more complete depiction and picture of this message and understanding of it. And if you want to call, that's our number on the screen, and or you can go to our website, aquarianawakening.com, or there's my email address on the bottom as well. So we hope you hear from you, and we hope you enjoy this little blog, a little bit of message on Christmas Eve, and wishing you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a happy, happy New Year.